As a fan of Charlie Brown, I was really looking forward to watching Bon Voyage Charlie Brown. I adore the Charlie Brown cartoons, and apart from the much more contemporaneous animated feature length film, this is the first Charlie Brown feature that I've seen. And I have to say, it is delightful. There were a few issues, tiny issues, that I spotted here and there that I will talk about, but I'll discuss this without any spoilers. So Charlie Brown and Linus have been chosen to become exchange students. Two French children are going to their school, they're going over to France. And it turns out that Marcie and Peppermint Patty have also been chosen for their school. So all four of them, with Woodstock and Snoopy, go over to France. But they actually have a stopover in England, in London, which made me very excited because I'm from there. And I loved seeing it in animation, and it just made me smile so much. And it takes them quite a while to get to France, and ordinarily that kind of thing annoys me when it's a very slow journey to the destination, but actually it worked very well, and I really enjoyed it. And when they get to France, I actually found it not as interesting once they were in France. The scenes in the school I really liked, but the scenes in the location where Charlie Brown and Linus were staying were not that interesting until something was revealed. There are a lot of questions about where they're staying, and I can't really go into too much detail without spoiling it, but things are not straightforward for them. And eventually, we're given an explanation, and the explanation is really moving and really sweet. So ultimately, I like that aspect of it, but the events leading up to that, I didn't really care for that much. So I did find that it wasn't as interesting once they got to France. I know life's meant to be about the journey as much as the destination, but I have to say here, the journey was much more interesting than the destination itself. But not so much that I didn't enjoy it at all. I really like the narrative. It's a really sweet idea. There is some French language spoken in this. I understood bits of it. The bits that I didn't understand, there was context. There were contextual references that made everything really straightforward and easy to listen to. It is obviously very cute, very funny, very quirky, really thoroughly adores the narrative. The concept was very well executed for the most part. As I said, there were times when I felt like it maybe wasn't that interesting, but generally it was very sweet, but not without its problems. So there were a few things that stood out to me as being tiny errors. For example, I think it's the very first scene when they're in the classroom, Charlie Brown and Linus are revealed as being the exchange students, and when all of the children rush up to Linus to congratulate him, Peppermint Patty is in that crowd. Cut to the next scene, Peppermint Patty is phoning Charlie Brown and telling her that she's been chosen for her school to be the exchange student. So she shouldn't have been in that previous scene. And I thought, okay, this is the opening scene, and there's an issue, there's an error. This is not off to a great start. But thankfully, it was few and far between. I loved seeing London in animation, really adored it. But they spelled centre incorrectly. They go to Victoria Station, and there's a sign that says Visitor Centre, and it's got the American spelling of centre on it, which, again, is a teeny weeny thing that doesn't really amount to anything. But because I'm British, it stood out to me. Also, the pronunciation of Glasgow as Glasgow, Glasgow. It's hard for me to say without pronouncing it in a weird accent. It's not the first time I've heard an American person mispronouncing Glasgow, but it just amused me. Also, I don't like the fact that the adults are speaking. I think the only time I liked it is when we had the French teacher speaking. That sounded kind of nice. But for example, there's the person at passport control. The Cockney taxi driver, I think it was a taxi driver, had to speak to get the Cockney joke across. But obviously, adults in Charlie Brown's world don't really speak, and that kind of ruined it a little bit. But not so much. The things that I didn't care for or didn't work very well are so minor. Also, I really liked Snoopy in this. Something I've mentioned before is that I don't really care for Snoopy as a character. I don't hate him, but I know a lot of people love Snoopy, and I just don't get the appeal. But actually, he was pretty great in this. There's a moment where he bonks Peppermint Patty on the head with his umbrella. I think it's when they just landed in Heathrow, and I loved it. So he was really good in this one, and that was kind of a nice experience. If you're a fan of Charlie Brown and you haven't seen Bon Voyage Charlie Brown, you definitely need to watch it. It's absolutely beautiful. Obviously directed by Bill Mendelez and Phil Roman co-directing. based on the characters by Charles M. Schulz. Really thoroughly adore it, really brilliantly done. Despite the few things here and there, it's definitely worth watching.